The Grand Hall of Buckingham Palace had never been quieter. 200 guests stood frozen, champagne glasses halfway to their lips, eyes locked on the entrance. The orchestra had stopped mid-note. Even the chandeliers seemed to hold their light. Captain James Hartley, a royal guard with 12 years of service, felt his breath catch in his throat. In all his time protecting the royal family, he had never seen anything like this. Princess Alexandra stood at the top of the marble staircase. But something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Her gown was torn at the shoulder. A thin line of blood traced down her left arm. Her tiara sat crooked on her head, and her face was pale as winter snow. But it was her eyes that stopped everyone cold. They were wide, unblinking, filled with something between shock and determination. The Queen rose from her seat. The King's hand gripped the armrest of his throne. Security radios crackled to life across the room. Alexandra took one step down, then another. Her heels clicked against the marble, each sound echoing like a gunshot in the silence. She didn't look left or right. She didn't acknowledge the gasps or the whispers starting to ripple through the crowd. She walked as if she were alone, as if the eyes of the world weren't watching her every move. Captain Hartley moved instinctively toward her, his training taking over. But something made him stop. The princess raised one hand barely an inch, a gesture so small only he could see it. Wait, not yet. If you're watching this, hit that subscribe button now. You won't want to miss what happens next. Trust me. Alexandra reached the bottom of the stairs. A photographer's flash went off. Then another. Security moved to stop them, but the damage was done. Tomorrow, these images would be on every newspaper in the world. The mysterious princess. The blood. The silence. Your Majesty. Alexandra's voice was steady, stronger than it had any right to be. She curtsied deeply before her grandmother, the Queen. Forgive my appearance. I had an unexpected delay. The Queen's face revealed nothing. Decades of royal composure held firm. But her fingers trembled slightly as she gestured for Alexandra to approach. Captain Hartley moved closer, staying just within hearing range. It was his job to protect the royal family, and right now, something in his gut screamed danger. But the threat wasn't external. It was already here, in this room, wearing a borrowed smile and hiding behind protocol. Alexandra stepped forward. The crowd parted like water, and that's when Hartley saw it. The princess's right hand, hidden in the folds of her torn gown, was clenched around something small and dark, something she had fought to protect. The Queen leaned forward. Alexandra, she whispered, quiet enough that only those closest could hear. What have you done? The princess's lips moved, forming words meant only for her grandmother's ears. But Captain Hartley, trained to read lips, caught 3 of them. I found proof. The Queen's expression didn't change. She nodded once, almost imperceptibly, then straightened. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced to the room, her voice carrying the weight of 7 decades on the throne. The gala will continue in the East Wing. Please, follow the staff. As the crowd began to move, confused but obedient, Alexandra swayed slightly. Hartley rushed forward, catching her elbow just before she fell. Her skin was ice cold. Captain, she breathed, her eyes finding his. Don't let anyone follow us. No one. Do you understand? He nodded. Your Highness, you need medical attention. I need protection.
Ow!
Her grip on the hidden object tightened. They're still here, in the palace, and they don't know I survived. Captain Hartley guided Princess Alexandra through a side door, away from the confused guests and flashing cameras. 2 more guards fell in behind them, their faces tense with unasked questions. The corridor was empty, lit by soft golden lights that made the blood on Alexandra's arm look darker. More ominous? The medical wing? One guard suggested. No. Alexandra's voice cut through the air like steel. The Queen's private study. Now. They moved quickly through the palace's hidden passages, routes known only to security and senior royals. Alexandra's breathing grew heavier with each step, but she never slowed. Her hand remained locked around whatever she was hiding, knuckles white with the effort. The Queen was already waiting when they arrived. She stood by the window, silhouetted against the London night, every inch the monarch who had weathered countless storms. But when she turned to face her granddaughter, something in her eyes softened. "Leave us," she commanded the guards. "Your Majesty." With respect, Hartley began. "Captain Hartley will stay," Alexandra interrupted. "I trust him. The others go." The guards exchanged glances but obeyed. The door clicked shut, leaving the three of them alone in the oak-paneled room. The distant sound of the gala drifted through the walls, a world away from this moment. "Sit down before you fall down," the Queen said, her tone gentler now, "and show me what you're holding." Alexandra sank into a leather chair. Slowly, painfully, she opened her hand. A USB drive, no bigger than her thumb, lay in her palm. It was splattered with blood. Some of it was hers. Some of it wasn't. "This," she said quietly, "changes everything." The Queen took the drive carefully, studying it as if it were a bomb. "What's on it? Names, dates, bank accounts, recordings." Alexandra's voice shook now, the adrenaline finally wearing off. "Evidence of a conspiracy that reaches into Parliament, MI5 in this palace. They've been stealing from the Crown Estate for years. Hundreds of millions of pounds hidden behind charity foundations and shell companies." Captain Hartley felt the blood drain from his face. This wasn't just scandal. This was treason. "Who knows you have this?" The Queen asked. "Too many people." Alexandra touched her injured shoulder, wincing. "I was supposed to meet my contact at the old chapel. He was a financial auditor, worked for the estate. He died getting this to me. They shot him right in front of me." The Queen's composure cracked, just for a second. Her hand found the back of a chair, steadying herself. "In the chapel? On palace grounds?" They used to silence her. Made it look like a heart attack, probably. "They're good, professional." Alexandra looked up at her grandmother, and Hartley saw real fear in her eyes. But they didn't find the drive. "They searched him, searched the chapel, and they would have searched me too. That's when I ran. Through the old tunnels, the ones from World War II, I knew they'd be watching the main entrances." "The blood," Hartley said quietly. "Not all of it is yours." Alexandra met his gaze. "One of them caught up to me in the tunnel. He had a knife. I had a piece of broken pipe." She didn't elaborate. She didn't need to. The Queen walked to her desk and pressed a hidden button. A panel in the wall slid open, revealing a small safe. She placed the USB drive inside and locked it. "This stays here until we know who we can trust. That list is shorter than you might think. Grandmother, they have people everywhere. In your security detail, your household staff, maybe even your advisors." Alexandra's voice broke. "We can't trust anyone. We can trust Captain Hartley." The Queen turned to face him fully. "Can't we, Captain?" Hartley straightened. "With your life, Your Majesty. Always." "Good, because you're about to become the most important guard in this palace." She moved to Alexandra, finally allowing herself to touch her granddaughter's face with maternal concern. "Someone in this building tried to kill a member of my family tonight. Someone stole from the crown. Someone murdered a man on royal grounds. And they think they can get away with it." The Queen's eyes hardened, and Hartley saw the woman who had stared down prime ministers and presidents, who had held a nation together through wars and recessions. "They're wrong." A knock at the door made all three of them tense. Hartley's hand moved to his sidearm.
"Your Majesty," a voice called from outside.
"Lord Pemberton requests an audience. He says it's urgent." Alexandra's face went white. She grabbed her grandmother's wrist. "That's him," she whispered. "His name is all over those files. He's one of them." Lord Pemberton had served the crown for 30 years. Trusted advisor. Close friend to the royal family. The man who had held Alexandra as a baby, who had attended every important moment of her life. And now, if the princess was right, a traitor waiting outside the door. The Queen's face betrayed nothing. She looked at Alexandra, then at Captain Hartley, making a decision that could cost them everything if she was wrong. "Let him wait," she called out. "I'll receive him shortly." Footsteps retreated down the hallway. The three of them remained frozen, listening to the silence that followed. "Are you certain?" the Queen asked Alexandra. "Pemberton has been loyal for decades. His father served my father. This accusation, I saw the signature's grandmother. His handwriting on transferred documents. Recorded phone calls where he discusses payments with people in Moscow, Beijing, Dubai. He's not just stealing. He's selling access to royal intelligence, diplomatic communications, security protocols." Alexandra's voice was steady now, strengthened by certainty. He's the head of it all. Hartley's mind raced. If Pemberton was involved, who else? How deep did this go? He thought of the guards outside, men he'd trained with, shared meals with. Could he trust any of them? "We need to get you out of the palace," he said to Alexandra. "Somewhere safe until we can know." The Queen's word was final. "Running makes us look guilty. Worse, it tells them we know something. Right now, they're uncertain." Alexandra, appearing at the gala injured but alive, disrupted their plan. They don't know if she has evidence or if she even knows what she stumbled into. "We use that uncertainty, Your Majesty. With respect, the princess is injured, and they've already tried to kill her once tonight." Hartley stepped forward. "Every moment she stays here is a moment we control the narrative." The Queen moved to her desk, pressing another button. A phone line, secure and untraceable. "I'm calling someone who helped me through a different crisis years ago. Before you were born, Captain. Before most people remember." She paused, waiting for the connection. "My 6 has a division that handles threats to the crown. Real threats, not the public ones. They answer only to me." Alexandra closed her eyes, exhaustion finally showing. "How long until they arrive?" 20 minutes. Maybe less." The Queen spoke quickly into the phone, using code words Hartley didn't recognize. When she hung up, her expression was grim. "Captain, I need you to do something difficult. Can you act as if nothing has changed?" "I can try, Your Majesty." "Not try. Do." She walked to him, this small woman who commanded nations. "You're going to escort Princess Alexandra to the medical wing. You'll make a show of it. Call for a doctor. Make sure people see her being treated. While they're watching her, while they think she's vulnerable and contained, the real work begins." "They'll try again," Hartley said. "In the medical wing, she's exposed. It's exactly what I'm counting on." The Queen's smile was cold. "Let them show their hand. Let them make a mistake. But they won't succeed, Captain, because you'll be there. And you won't be alone." Soft chime from the Queen's phone. A text message. She read it and nodded. "My people are in position. Former SAS, every one of them. They're dressed as staff, guests, even photographers. No one will recognize them. They've been watching the palace all night, and they've already identified 3 individuals who don't belong." Alexandra sat up straighter. 3. One posed as a caterer. One as a member of Parliament's security detail. The third was more clever, dressed as a palace historian giving tours earlier today. Never left. They've been tracking him through the security cameras. The Queen's eyes were hard. "He's been trying to access the tunnel system. The same tunnels you used to escape." "They're looking for the drive," Alexandra said. "They know I went through there. They're retracing my steps." A sudden thought hit Hartley like ice water. "Your Majesty, if they're in the tunnels, they're below us right now. The study is directly above the old air raid shelter. If they breached the lights went out. Total darkness swallowed the room." Hartley's training kicked in instantly. He moved toward where Alexandra had been sitting, found her arm, pulled her down to the floor. His other hand found the Queen, guiding her to cover behind the desk. "Stay low," he whispered. "Don't make a sound." Emergency lighting flickered on, casting red shadows across the walls. The door handle turned slowly. Someone was trying to enter quietly, carefully, not announcing themselves. Not knocking, Hartley drew his weapon, positioning himself between the door and the royals. His heart hammered, but his hands stayed steady. He'd trained for this moment his entire career. Every drill, every simulation, all leading to now. The door burst open. A figure in black tactical gear stepped through, weapon raised. But before Hartley could fire, the intruder's head snapped back. He dropped like a stone. Behind him stood a woman Hartley had never seen before, middle-aged, dressed in an evening gown, but holding a silenced pistol with the ease of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. She stepped over the body without looking down. "Your Majesty," she said calmly, "we need to move you now. They've breached the lower levels, and they're coming up fast." The woman moved with military precision, checking the hallway before waving them forward. Captain Hartley kept his weapon trained on their surroundings, every sense on high alert. The red emergency lights painted everything in shades of blood and shadow. "Who are you?" Hartley demanded, though he was already moving the Queen and Alexandra toward the door. "Commander Sarah Price, MI6. Her Majesty called me 15 years ago when someone tried to poison the Crown Prince. I've been watching the palace ever since." She pressed a finger to her ear, listening to communications Hartley couldn't hear. "We have 4 hostiles moving through the east corridor. 2 more trying to access the roof. And Lord Pemberton just tried to enter the Queen's quarters. My people have him detained. Pemberton is detained." The Queen sounded almost disappointed. "I would have preferred to confront him myself. With respect, ma'am, you'll have that chance. But first, we need you alive." Commander Price led them through a servant's passage Hartley had never seen before. The walls were plain wood, the floor bare stone. Secret routes built centuries ago for exactly this kind of emergency. "Your Highness," she said to Alexandra, "the man you killed in the tunnel, we found his body. He was former Spetsnaz, Russian Special Forces. This isn't some financial scheme. It's a foreign operation." Alexandra's voice was strained. "They're using the theft to fund something else." "Exactly. The money trail leads to accounts linked to Russian intelligence, but also Chinese MSS and several independent groups. Someone's been building a network using crown funds to pay for assets all across Europe." Price stopped at a junction, listening again to her earpiece. "They're trying to destabilize the monarchy, make it look corrupt, compromised. When the scandal breaks and they planned for it to break, the public trust collapses. Parliament moves to limit royal powers, maybe abolish the crown entirely. Britain loses one of its few remaining symbols of stability." "But they failed to kill me," Alexandra said. "Which means they've lost control of the narrative." "Partially, but they're adapting. Right now, they're trying to eliminate all witnesses and destroy the evidence." Price glanced at Hartley. "Captain, your security credentials have been revoked. Someone in the palace guard flagged you as a threat. If we run into any of your colleagues, they'll try to detain you." Hartley felt the words like a punch. His own people turned against him. Who gave that order? Deputy Commander Maurice. He's been on Pemberton's payroll for 8 months. Price didn't slow her pace. "We have evidence he's been feeding information to the conspirators, including the princess's schedule, security rotations, blind spots in camera coverage. He's how they got inside tonight." The betrayal stung, but there was no time to process it. Footsteps echoed from somewhere behind them, running, multiple people. "They've found our trail," Price said. She turned to Hartley. "Can you shoot?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good, because we're about to have company." She handed him 2 extra magazines. "Non-lethal if possible. We need prisoners who can talk. But if it's you or them, choose you. The Queen needs you alive." They emerged into a storage room filled with old furniture and paintings covered in dust sheets. Price moved to a section of wall and pressed a hidden switch. A panel slid open, revealing a modern safe room lined with concrete and steel. Monitors showed camera feeds from across the palace. Inside, Price ushered them through. "You'll be safe here. This room doesn't exist on any official plans. The door is reinforced. Nothing's getting through." "What about you?" the Queen asked. "I'm going to buy you time." Price checked her weapon. "And I'm going to have a conversation with Lord Pemberton. By the time I'm done, I'll know every name, every account, every detail of this operation." The door began to close. Hartley stood on the threshold, torn between duty to stay with the Queen and the desire to fight. Go with her, Captain, the Queen said quietly. Alexandra and I will be safe here. But Commander Price needs someone watching her back. Someone we trust. Hartley nodded. He stepped back through the closing door, hearing it seal behind him with a heavy thunk. He was alone with Price in the storage room, the sound of approaching footsteps growing louder. Ever been in a firefight? Price asked, taking position behind a stack of furniture. Training exercises only. Well, this is about to be very educational. She smiled grimly. Stay low, aim for center mass, and remember they're wearing body armor. Leg shots, if you want to drop them without killing. The door burst open. 3 men in tactical gear flooded in, weapons raised. They moved like professionals, covering angles, communicating with hand signals. Hartley recognized the training. Military, maybe mercenaries. Price fired twice. The first shot took out the lead man's kneecap. He went down screaming. The second shot shattered a light fixture, plunging half the room into darkness. Hartley fired at the second man, hitting him in the thigh. The man stumbled, but kept coming. The third operative dove behind cover, returning fire. Bullets tore through dust sheets and splintered antique chairs. Hartley felt splinters sting his face, but he stayed focused. He'd trained for this. Sort of. Price moved like water, fluid and precise. She flanked the third operative, coming at him from an angle he didn't expect. Her pistol touched the back of his head. Drop it, or I drop you. The man froze. His weapon clattered to the floor. Zip ties in my left pocket, Price said to Hartley, never taking her eyes off the prisoner. Secure them. All 3. Hartley worked quickly, binding the men's hands and feet. The one he'd shot was pale, sweating, but alive. You need medical attention, Hartley told him. The man spat blood. You're all dead. You just don't know it yet. Original. Price hauled the third man to his feet. Let's go see your boss. I'm sure Lord Pemberton will be thrilled to know his hired muscle failed. They dragged the prisoner through the corridors, Price leading the way with absolute confidence. She knew every turn, every hidden passage. This was a woman who'd spent years mapping the palace's secrets. They found Pemberton in a small sitting room, guarded by 2 of Price's agents. He sat in a velvet chair, looking older than Hartley remembered. Smaller, somehow. The weight of his betrayal seemed to have physically diminished him. Your Majesty is safe, I assume? Pemberton said when they entered. His voice was calm, resigned. No thanks to you. Price threw the prisoner into a chair. Start talking names. All of them. Asterisk Lord Pemberton stared at Commander Price for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. It was a bitter, hollow sound that filled the small room like smoke. You think I'm the one in charge? You think this ends with me? I think you're going to tell us everything, or you're going to spend whatever years you have left in a cell so deep even the guards will forget you exist. Price pulled up a chair, sitting across from him. Talk now. Pemberton looked at Captain Hartley, recognition flickering in his eyes. Young James, I remember when you first joined the guard. So eager, so loyal. Tell me, are you still loyal after tonight? Hartley said nothing. His jaw was tight. This started before you were born, Pemberton continued, his gaze distant. A project called Longfall. The idea was simple. Destabilize Western institutions from within. Not with armies or bombs, but with corruption, scandal, division. Make people lose faith in their governments, their churches, their monarchies. The Soviet Union fell, but the strategy survived. Russia, China, others saw the value. They funded it, expanded it, and you sold out your country for what? Money? Price's voice was ice. For survival? Pemberton leaned forward. They approached me 20 years ago. My son was working in Moscow, fell in with the wrong people, got himself in debt to some very dangerous men. They offered me a choice, cooperate or watch my boy die slowly. So I cooperated. Small things at first, a document here, a schedule there. Nothing that seemed too harmful, until it was. Price didn't sound sympathetic. Until it was, Pemberton agreed. By then, I was in too deep. They had evidence of everything I'd done. recordings, documents with my signature. I couldn't stop without destroying my family, my reputation, everything I'd built. So I kept going, and I told myself it was contained, manageable, that I was protecting more than I was harming. The theft from the Crown Estate, Hartley said. How long? 7 years. We'd move money through charities, foundation grants, consulting fees. Millions at first, then tens of millions, then hundreds. It funded operations across Europe. Agents, bribes, blackmail operations, building a network that could influence policy, elections, public opinion. Pemberton looked genuinely tired. The plan was to expose it all, next month. Release the evidence of royal corruption to every major news outlet simultaneously. Create a crisis that would force Parliament to act. Maybe even trigger a referendum on abolishing the monarchy. But Alexandra found the proof first, Price said. Yes, her auditor was supposed to be one of ours, but he developed a conscience. Started keeping his own records, tracking everything. When he realized how deep it went, he panicked. Reached out to the princess instead of me. That's when Moscow sent their specialists. They killed him, tried to kill her, and now he spread his hands. Now here we are. Who else in the palace? Hartley demanded. How many others? Pemberton closed his eyes. Deputy Commander Maurice, 3 of the household staff, 2 members of the Royal Communications team, a secretary in the Prime Minister's office, a junior minister in the Home Office. I can give you all their names, all the details, but it won't stop what's coming. What do you mean? Price leaned closer. The exposure is automated. If I don't send a specific code by midnight tonight, the documents release automatically. Emails to 200 journalists. Uploads to a dozen secure servers. Public forums. Social media. Everything. Pemberton's smile was sad. Insurance, they called it. Making sure I couldn't back out or get caught without taking everyone down with me. But it also means you can't stop it. Even if you arrest everyone, even if you kill me right now, those files will go public in... He checked his watch. 2 hours and 17 minutes. The room went silent. Hartley felt the weight of those words settling over them like a blanket. Everything they'd fought for tonight, all the danger, the deaths, and it might not matter. The scandal would break anyway. The damage would be done. The code, Price said carefully. What is it? A 16-digit sequence only I know? I have to enter it on a secure laptop, currently in my office safe. Miss the deadline, and Longfall completes its mission. The British monarchy gets destroyed by its own apparent corruption. And the ripple effects destabilize allied governments across Europe. Pemberton looked at them with something like pity. You think you've won tonight? You haven't. You've just learned you're about to lose. Commander Price stood abruptly. She pressed her earpiece, speaking rapidly. This is Price. I need the Queen on secure line 1. Now, it's critical. She paced while waiting, then spoke clearly. Your Majesty, we have a problem. Hartley could hear the Queen's voice tinny through the earpiece, but couldn't make out words. Price explained the situation in clipped professional terms. The automated release. The deadline. The impossible choice. He's right here, ma'am. I'll put you on speaker. Price hit a button. The Queen's voice filled the room, strong and clear. Lord Pemberton, you've betrayed your country, your oath, and my family. But you still have the chance to choose how your story ends. Give us the code, and spend the rest of my life in prison. Pemberton shook his head. I'm 73 years old, Your Majesty. I have terminal cancer. The doctors gave me 6 months. Why would I trade my final days of freedom for a cell? Because, the Queen said quietly, your son doesn't have cancer. Your grandchildren aren't dying. They have their whole lives ahead of them. And when this scandal breaks, when the truth comes out about what you've done, they'll carry that shame forever. Your name will be synonymous with treason. Your grandchildren will change their surnames, move countries, try to escape your shadow. Is that the legacy you want? Pemberton's face crumbled. For the first time, Hartley saw a real emotion breaking through. They promised my family would be protected, relocated, given new identities. They lied, the Queen said. The moment you're no longer useful, you and your family become loose ends. You must know that. You've worked in intelligence long enough to understand how these operations work. There are no happy endings for traitors, Lord Pemberton. Not for you. And not for your family. The room held its breath. Pemberton's hands trembled as he brought them to his face. When he spoke again, his voice was broken. The laptop. My office. The code is inside a book on my shelf. Kipling's poems. My son gave it to me years ago. Price was already moving, speaking urgently into her earpiece. Agents mobilized across the palace. Captain Hartley ran through the palace corridors beside Commander Price, their footsteps echoing off marble floors. Behind them, 2 MI6 agents dragged Lord Pemberton, forcing the old man to keep pace. They had 1 hour and 53 minutes. His office is in the West Wing, Hartley said, breathing hard. 3rd floor. But if Maurice knows we're coming, Morris is already detained. Price cut him off. My people grabbed him 12 minutes ago. But he's not the only problem. The Russians who breached the palace are still active. At least 2 of them are unaccounted for. They'll know we're going for that laptop. They reached Pemberton's office to find the door already open. Inside, furniture was overturned. Papers scattered across the floor. Someone had been here. Searching the safe. Pemberton gasped, pointing with a shaking hand. Behind the portrait of Queen Victoria, the combination is already open, Price said grimly. She pulled back the portrait to reveal an empty safe, its door hanging loose. They beat us here. No. Pemberton's face went white. No. The book. Where's the book? He stumbled to his bookshelf, running his hands frantically across the spines. It was here. Right here. Kipling's poems. My son, his voice broke. They took it. They took everything. Hartley moved to the window. Outside, palace grounds stretched into darkness. Security lights swept back and forth. Somewhere out there, someone had the laptop and the code. In less than 2 hours, unless they stopped it, the scandal would break. The monarchy would face its greatest crisis in centuries. Track them, the Queen's voice came through Price's earpiece, now connected to all of them. Use whatever resources you need, but find that laptop. Price was already pulling up tracking data on her phone. The palace has a grid of motion sensors throughout the grounds, installed after the last security breach. If they move through any monitored area, we'll have their path. Her fingers flew across the screen. There are 2 signatures moving toward the east gate. Fast. They're running. Can we lock down the gates? Hartley asked. They'll have backup plans. These are professionals. Price headed for the door. But the east gate leads to the old stables, then to Grosvenor Place. If they reach the street, they disappear into London, and we never find them. They ran. Through corridors, downstairs, out into the cold night air. The palace gardens were a maze of hedges and fountains, beautiful by day, treacherous in darkness. Hartley's lungs burned, but he pushed harder. Everything depended on the next few minutes. Ahead, 2 figures moved through the shadows. One carried a laptop bag. The other held a weapon, sweeping it back and forth, covering their escape. Armed, Price shouted. She dove behind a stone fountain as bullets sparked off the marble. Hartley dropped flat, his own weapon coming up. The guards trailing them spread out, taking cover, forming a perimeter. You're surrounded, Price called out. Drop your weapons and return the laptop. This is your only chance. We don't surrender, came the response. Russian accent, thick, confident. You want the laptop? Come take it, Price looked at Hartley. In her eyes, he saw calculation. They couldn't risk a firefight. The laptop might get damaged. The files could be triggered early. But they also couldn't let these men escape. I'm going around, Hartley whispered. Draw their attention. I'll flank from the north hedge. You'll get yourself killed. Then I'll die protecting the crown. That's the job. He moved before she could stop him. Low and fast, using every shadow and monument for cover. His heart hammered against his ribs, but his hands stayed steady. Behind him, Price opened fire. Controlled bursts, designed to keep the Russians pinned, focused on her position. Hartley circled wide, coming around through a section of garden he'd patrolled 1,000 times. He knew every path, every blind spot. He emerged behind them. The man with the laptop was focused on Price's position. The armed guard was reloading. Neither saw Hartley until he was 5 feet away. "Don't move." His voice was steel. His weapon was aimed at center mass. The armed man turned, weapon coming up. Hartley didn't hesitate. He fired once. The shot took the Russian in the shoulder, spinning him around. The man's weapon clattered across stone. The second man ran. He still had the laptop bag. Hartley sprinted after him, closing the distance. The Russian was fast, but Hartley was younger, fresher, and he knew this ground. He tackled the man at the edge of the fountain, both of them crashing into shallow water. They fought. The Russian was trained, dangerous. He threw an elbow that caught Hartley's jaw, making stars explode across his vision. But Hartley held on, wrapping his arms around the laptop bag, refusing to let go. They rolled through water and mud, struggling, a gunshot. Close. Too close. The Russian went limp. Hartley looked up to see Commander Price standing over them, her weapon still raised. She'd shot the man through the leg. "Clea," she called to her agents. They rushed forward, securing both Russians. Price pulled Hartley to his feet, taking the laptop bag from his shaking hands. "You did good, Captain." Inside the bag, miraculously undamaged, was Pemberton's laptop. Price opened it carefully. A timer on the screen showed 1 hour and 19 minutes remaining. "The code," Hartley said. "We still don't have the code." "The book," Price said. "They must have taken it. Search them, both of them now." The agents tore through the Russians' clothing, their gear, everything. No book, no slip of paper, nothing. "Where is it?" Price grabbed the conscious Russian, the one Hartley had shot in the shoulder. "The book. Kipling's poems." "Where?" The man smiled through bloody teeth. "Already gone. Burned. You have the laptop, but no code. Congratulations, you've accomplished nothing." Hartley felt despair creeping in. They were so close. Everything they'd fought for tonight, all of it worthless if they couldn't enter that code. "Wait," Pemberton's voice came over the earpiece. He'd been listening the whole time. "The code. I can tell you the code. I memorized it years ago. In case something like this happened, then why didn't you tell us before?" Price demanded. "'Cause I needed to know my family would be protected. Truly protected. Not promises, but action." Pemberton's voice was stronger now. "Commander Price, I want your word. Your personal guarantee? My son and grandchildren will be given new identities, protection, a fresh start. They'll never be connected to what I've done." Price looked at the laptop screen. 1 hour and 11 minutes. She pressed her earpiece. "Your Majesty, Lord Pemberton is requesting terms." The Queen's voice came through, clear and final. "His family will be protected. They are innocent of his crimes. They will be given new identities and relocated outside the UK. They will never want for anything. This is my word as Queen." Silence stretched for 3 long seconds. Then Pemberton spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "The code is 741-8653-92041-7628. Repeat it back." Price typed as he spoke. Hartley held his breath. Price's fingers moved across the keyboard. The timer continued counting down. 1 hour and 9 minutes. 8, 7. She hit enter. The screen flashed, then went dark. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then new text appeared. Automated release canceled. All scheduled uploads terminated. Price closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. "It's done. We stopped it." Jeers erupted from the earpieces. In the safe room, Princess Alexandra and the Queen embraced. Across the palace, MI6 agents secured the remaining conspirators. The crisis was over. But as Hartley sat in the mud and fountain water, exhausted and bruised, he knew the real work was just beginning. They'd stopped the automated release, but the conspiracy was still out there. The names Pemberton had given them were just the beginning. This would take months, maybe years to fully unravel. Commander Price extended a hand, pulling him to his feet. The Queen wants to see you. Both of you. She nodded to Hartley, and then toward where Pemberton was being held by agents. They walked back to the palace together, an unlikely group bound by this impossible night. Pemberton was limping, handcuffed, his career and reputation destroyed. But his family would be safe. That was something. The Queen and Princess Alexandra were waiting in the safe room. When Hartley entered, Alexandra immediately moved to him. "Thank you," she said simply. "You saved us. All of us." The Queen approached Pemberton. The old traitor looked at his monarch with eyes full of shame and regret. "Your Majesty, I have no words." "Then say nothing." The Queen's voice was cold. "You will go to trial. You will face justice for what you've done. But your family will be protected, as promised. That is more mercy than you deserve." Pemberton nodded. As agents led him away, he looked back once. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For all of it. I'm truly sorry." The Queen turned to Captain Hartley. "You acted with extraordinary courage tonight. You trusted your instincts, protected my granddaughter, and helped prevent a catastrophe. The crown is in your debt." Hartley straightened, despite his exhaustion. "I was just doing my duty, Your Majesty." "No." Alexandra stepped forward. "You went beyond duty. You risked everything. And you never wavered." She glanced at her grandmother. "We'd like to promote you, Captain. Head of Royal Security. You've proven you can be trusted with our lives." The weight of that responsibility settled over Hartley like a cloak. But looking at their faces, at the trust in their eyes, he found himself nodding. "I accept, Your Highness." "Your Majesty?" "It would be my honor." As dawn broke over London, the palace slowly returned to normal. Guests from the interrupted gala were given careful explanations. The press was fed a story about a security drill that went too far. The truth would remain hidden, locked away in classified files. Princess Alexandra stood at a window, watching the sun rise. Her arm was bandaged now, properly treated. The blood washed away, but the memories would stay forever. "Do you think we got them all?" she asked quietly. The Queen joined her, both of them silhouetted against the new day. "No, but we got enough. The network is broken. It will take them years to rebuild if they ever do. And we'll be watching." In the gardens below, workers were already repairing the fountain, cleaning up the evidence of the night's violence. By noon, it would look as if nothing had happened, as if this was just another day at Buckingham Palace. But Captain James Hartley knew better. Standing in his new office, looking out at the grounds he now protected, he understood that tonight had changed everything. The palace had fallen silent when Princess Alexandra appeared. But in that silence, something stronger had been born. A resolve, a determination, a promise that the crown would not fall. Not tonight, not ever. The story would never be told publicly. No headlines would capture what truly happened. But in the quiet rooms and hidden passages of the palace, people would remember. The night a princess fought for her country. The night a guard became a hero. The night the palace fell silent and then rose again.